Hello, my name is Sangita Myska and I'm a reporter with BBC Radio 4's Today programme. I have the great privilege of sitting down with one of the world's leading contemporary dancers, Akram Khan, and also a master in the art of Kathak, Pratap Pawar. We're going to be discussing the relationship between Khan and Pawar. Pawar was Khan's guru and Akram was his disciple. This is a unique relationship that is really one that's held back for the South Asian arts. We'll also be talking about how training as a Kathak dancer has influenced Akram Khan's work throughout the years. So enjoy. So I'd like you to both cast your minds back and try and remember when you first met and what that impression was from the student and the teacher. Akram, you first.
When I went to Guruji's class, the first class I had ever attended, I was quite nervous because most of the dancers were older and we were the two youngest. When I say we, my sister and I, my sister's 4 years younger. And so my Guruji has, my Guruji has more elephant memory, so he remembers everything in detail, so he'll be more specific about it. But I remember being young, and being intimidated by so many adult dancers. And what I remember is, because up till that point I had learnt folk dance, and it was very freestyle, very open, but not with real discipline, not with real rigor. And suddenly I saw Guruji's class, and I was kind of not traumatized, but I was kind of taken aback by how serious this training is. And I thought, oh my God, I can't just have fun. This is going to be hard work. So those were the little kind of memories that I have of feeling intimidated, feeling nervous, feeling terrified by the discipline. It was quite and Guruji, has an, all gurus, but particularly my guru has an authority, with his voice. Which is, when he speaks, we all go quiet. It's hardcore. So I realized, because I learned dance from my mum before that, so it was very soft. My mum was very softly spoken, but somehow Guruji had this authority, but equally, he had a warmth about him.
Guruji, what was your first impression of Akram? Can you remember that first time?
Yeah. To be precise, he came to me in 1982, along with his sister. She was equally talented. On the contrary, she was a little more expression wise, and both were. I was very happy, but actually, many people think dancing is girls' work based on that. So I look forward for boys to come in my class. So I was quite happy to have it. He was small, but very soon I realized that he has got something special. And as he said, first he just thought it's like a fun or not. And then very soon he realized that it is a disciplined art form and it needs a lot of practice and hard work. Otherwise you can't reach anywhere. So, and another thing very special, that we have got a ritual in India that you adopt as a shishya by doing ganda bandhan. Ganda is this pious, what will you call it, the ganda?
It's like a religious ritual that forms a relationship, a very sacred relationship.
Yeah.
And was this the guru-disciple relationship that you were about to embark on? And what is the guru-disciple relationship?
That's what I was going to tell you. So, all depends on the gurus. My guru is also very particular. My guru, Pandit Birju Maharaj, today is the greatest name in the whole world. If there is any Kathak happening, his influence is there. So I'm his very first disciple who he tied the ganda, and his career started as a guru. So, and that was my first. So in his whole life, he has taught thousands dancers all over the world. But I'm the first in 5 more. And in my life, in 60 years career, only one Gandavan Shagird, and that is Akram. And it is ritual like this. I mean, in short to tell you, as some time you adopt legally any child, so that legally that the child has got the right on your properties, and so that kind of concept here. The property means Guru's property means Guru's art. So that gives a disciple a right to get everything what Guru has got. And it is Guru's moral duty that if you are doing Gandabandhan, you shouldn't keep anything up. Whatever best and most you can give, you should give. And that happened between him and me. And I'm so proud that everywhere I hear the Shagird, my student's name from all over the world. And I feel and sometimes I'm very surprised that how come I could only think of him and that time neither he knew nor I knew that he will reach where he is today.
What does being the disciple bring in terms of its rights and its responsibilities?
Well, to be honest with you, if I'm being really frank with you in front of my Guruji, I'm not a great disciple because I don't invest enough efforts. I see my Guruji is a great guru, but he's an incredible disciple because he's an incredible disciple of his master. Because there is a relationship that you have to maintain and that you have to seva, that you have to devote to your guru. I've never, unfortunately, I've not done that. But my Guruji is very, very open-hearted and he's very forgiving. So he's always forgiving me in that respect. But really, a disciple, when they become a disciple, it's a huge responsibility of Guru and disciple equally, because the disciple has to justify the Guru's work. So. But Gurujis, they're intelligent in the sense they won't give it to anybody. The first question he asked me was, will you take this seriously before you become a disciple? Otherwise, there's no point in becoming a disciple. So when I said yes, I realized that I had a responsibility to practice and train. I can't just take it as a hobby. And that's, I think, at that point when I became a disciple, was the beginning of my training. Everything else before that was just training. But suddenly, when I became a disciple, there was a sense of training to get much, much more deeper in the art form. And a guru-disciple relationship is not just like a teacher and a student, as in the West. There is something very sacred about it, because they're also like the father or mother. So it's not just about the way you dance. The lessons that are shared or are given to you are not just about what happens in a studio. It's what happens outside a studio. I would spend a lot of time with him where he's talking about how an artist lives, how an artist thinks, what one should eat, what one should be thinking about, what one should be reading. To absorb information, to absorb knowledge, not just from Kathak, but from all around. Guruji was a great ambassador of someone who really saw other art forms. He was one of the first artists to work with flamenco artists and also African dance traditions, and to bring them together with Kathak. And so when I witnessed that, I realized that he was also, when I became a disciple, he was also sharing that idea of learning from other cultures and other art forms and finding similarities. So what I do today is also because of his influence and his sense of opening me up.
Akram, I've heard you speak before about how, as a youngster, you didn't necessarily fit in with your peer group, who were very academic and very much on that quite traditional path of school, university, and a profession. When you met Guruji, did you have a sense of coming home, of fitting in? Did you find someone who was a little bit like you?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, students always try to become like their Guruji. You know, the way Guruji spoke, the way Guruji sat. So children are a great example of our civilization, of how we are as a civilization, species, sorry. The first thing babies do is they copy their parents. So we imitate our parents, the way the parents speak, the tone. When we tell them off, then they tell their siblings off. We mimic. But what's interesting, in other species like apes don't ape. They don't copy each other. So human beings learn by watching and trying to imitate the Guru. So for me, I immediately wanted to become like my Guru. You know, it was so inspiring, because Guruji is not just an artist who understands the form of the dance form. He also understands the stage, and the stage is something not everyone. That skill of understanding the stage and how to be on stage, not everyone has. You know, one of my heroes is Michael Jackson. You know, he was not a great dancer, but when he's on stage, there's a magic.
Guruji, how did you know that Akram would be your disciple?
I mean, this is very strange, that unless you feel, there is some certain feeling inside, sometimes somewhere it comes, and then you start feeling that this is the one who will take your work. And it's very difficult to say, and the answer is this: it's not every guru does that. There are most of the gurus, what I have seen, anybody comes to learn to them, they tie ganda. And to us, it is something very big thing. I mean, as I told you, in my entire career, he's the first one and only one. And even in my Guruji, his own sons, he tied ganda after 50 years after me. His own sons, who are both dancers. So he waited that long. Must be something made him not to do it. And then he thought he'll do it, and he did it. That's one part. But very nicely, sweet of him, he said that he's not doing that kind of seva, but he doesn't understand that this is real seva, what he's doing. Yesterday you heard Asha Bhosle saying that when your students make name, that is your name. So that is the way I look. He's doing great thing. I feel so proud that I'm in different corner of the world. I get letters or clippings, and that. So I feel very proud. What more I want? So he's doing that. Suppose he was not doing that, and wouldn't have done, then I would have felt very disappointed that I did a mistake. But no. So what he's doing, I think, the only thing I want him to more choreographer for contemporary, and Kathak, as yesterday you saw, in age of 75, I was standing. That is only in Indian dance it happens.
For those that have never seen Kathak, or even heard the word, what is it?
Kathak word comes from katha. Katha means story. That at an ancient time, in the temples, these priests used to sing the devotional songs. While doing that, they out of sentiment of devotion for God, they started making some gestures, hand gestures, some expression, natural, not to impress anybody or anything. And Kathak was born there in the North India's temples, and then gradually it came to, as the swords went in the Indian royal courts. Then it came to Mughal courts also, Akbar, Jahangir, in their courts. That's one thing about Kathak, that Kathak is the only, I'll say, we've got 7 classical dance styles in India. Kathak is the only one which has got a beautiful merge of Hindu and Muslim culture, because those people brought some music and Persian dancers also with them. So that influence is there. Then We people only, Kathak only do the ghazals and some Persian ghazals and those things. So this is a beautiful blending of that, though it is origin from temple, but afterwards, I always say that Kathak flourished in Mughal period because they were very fond of beautiful art forms. So many things have been created and improved the repertoire.
Akram, you're world renowned for your powerful narratives. To what extent do you think, having trained as a Kathak classical dancer, has influenced your work thereafter?
I think you can't take the Kathak out of the work that I do. Because Katha, as Guruji said, Kathak it's a storytelling art form. So even Charlie Chaplin is a Kathakar. He's a storyteller, a great storyteller, silent movie storyteller, one of the greatest. He had humor in it, but in the end, it's narrative. It's telling a story. And so I think one has to be careful to isolate Kathak or Bharatanatyam or other art forms, particularly Kathak, and say, well, it belongs only to the world of Kathak, because storytelling is universal. As our civilization, the reason why we are somehow accelerated as a species is because we like gossip and we like to tell stories. And so the art of storytelling, and actually, to be honest with you, it's so important right now in today's time, what's happened in Manchester, as we heard this morning, this horrific. We have to continue telling stories. We have to continue telling our own stories, especially the stories that are not heard. They're very, very important. And I think art plays a very important role, because we can somehow, with especially dance, you can say it in a way that is ambiguous, and yet it's political. It can be political, but it can also be ambiguous, because artists always are slightly different to normal human beings, because they always see the world in a slant, slightly differently. They don't see the way everybody sees in a very practical, not everybody, but a lot of, perhaps some people see it in a practical, logical way. Life is not logical. Life is a series of illogical sequences. So as artists, we try to put those illogical sequences and create a mirror to the audience, so the audience can see themselves. That's what great art, like when I saw Guruji perform yesterday, what's important is, out of that show, is that we can see ourselves in Guruji. We can see the stories that he's saying and connect with it. It's about connecting.
There is an essential relationship between the musician on stage and the dancer, without which you can't tell a story. Is it possible to explain to someone what that relationship is?
A relationship what?
Between musician and dancer.
I was just going to say that when he said that Kathak, he was talking in the reference of your question of how Kathak is helping his present work and people think he's contemporary dancers. Another big advantage he has got, where he is wonderful in his lay and tal. Kathak is timing, the play of drums, the role of drums. So connection with tabla and Kathak is very close. So he's learned so much and he's practiced so much. So he's got lot nice combinations of rhythms. Now, I can't claim that my disciple is the greatest contemporary dancers in the world, but one way I can say why his productions are so popular. Many of his production, I almost seen all. Many of his productions, he has provided the rhythmic aspect, and that has been used by the composer in a clever way. Of course, composer's credit also, but originally he thought of those rhythms or the rhythmic aspect of it, and it was provided into that. That made his production different than normal production. So there, Kathak If he was not a Kathak dancer, I can say that he wouldn't have been that famous and that could claim that position what he is today. It is, and I'm sure he's sitting here, and he can't deny to that Kathak.
I was going to ask you actually, had you not walked into that studio in West London, had you not become a Kathak dancer originally, can you imagine what your identity would have been, or are the two things now so bound together that there is no separation?
I think they're pretty much bound together. I mean, I can't imagine what I would have been. But I just want to enforce what Guruji said, because it was very beautiful. One thing that Guruji, I noticed from a very young age when I was a child, was the dialogue. Again, it's a connection, but the conversation that Guruji has with musicians. It's very special, and it doesn't happen in all art forms. Flamenco, it happens to a certain extent, but with Kathak and watching Guruji, he really is like a conductor. So, if you're going to conduct musicians, you have to know the music better than the musicians. Otherwise, they will walk over you. And so, in a sense, Guruji knew his music. So, again, me trying to be like Guruji, or students always trying to be like Guru, we thought, yes, we have to learn. And Guruji always sent me to tabla class, because he said, you have to learn how to command tal if you're going to speak on stage. And so, as a child, he would put me on stage and ask me to recite a composition, a rhythmical composition. And it was quite nerve-wracking, but that was, as I said, the training is partly in the studio, but it's also partly on stage. And that way, Guruji was very smart with us, because he said, the other half of the training has to be on stage. You have to know what it is, because an amazing dancer in the studio doesn't necessarily mean an amazing dancer on stage. They're very, very different things.
What do you mean by a tal? Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
Tal. Tal means rhythm, rhythmic aspect of the style. He rightly said, and I'll say, Kathak is one classical dance style which the dancer leads and musicians follow. Improvisation, the improvisation is amazing, and I feel so proud that he's worked a lot on that, and the way he improvises on stage, that's wonderful to see, and that is a very important aspect of Kathak. And as I said, the dancer leads and musicians follow, so we have to be so strong in the rhythm.
And I've heard you previously talk about the mathematics involved in working at that beat. Do you have a minute to clap or allow the listener to hear what a beat would sound like, to which your feet might move?
Yeah.
I just realised it's very difficult on radio to try and explain what that is.
Yeah, that's very difficult. But say, for example, there's a 16-beat cycle. It's in fours: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 30, 40, 50, 1, 2. Din din da na trika din na din na da din na da din na trika din na trika da din na da din na dhagin tadita din na da din na dhagin ta da din na. Then you have fives and fours. Taka takita taka takita taka takita taka takita 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 taka takita taka debita kita da takita da taka da taka debita takita da taka da da takadha tadha takadha takridgundun nakita da din takradha din takatita da din takatita da din takradha da din takatita da thum tadha katita da thum tadha katita da thum tadha.
I will speak one on stage. Normally I do it in the end. Last night I couldn't do it. I will try to speak one piece, and towards the end, 2 hours performance, you almost get exhausted in the end. Last night was a much short performance, so normally 2 hours. So towards the end, I do this tukda. I will speak in one breath, the whole piece. Da 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 da. In one breath, I spoke the whole thing. I do normally this. Last night I wanted to do it. It was the end of the poem. By that time, the dancer is so exhausted. But that is the strength of Kathak, provided you understand and you work on it. Okay. And I feel so proud. He told me that though he's touring, whatever it is, but his practice regular.
When Akram went to university and started training as a contemporary dancer, what advice did you give Akram about using Kathak in contemporary dance? Or did you give him any advice?
Actually, he was not very keen to do anything else, but there was a pressure of parents that all the parents that he should do degree. So he cleverly thought that if I should do the degree, better I do it. And then only in contemporary dance he could take a degree. So he went there. But that is very good because how he was trained in Kathak and then contemporary. And there, one thing very good he did, and God bless him for that, he didn't leave his Kathak. Every day, first thing in the morning, he'll get up, he practices Kathak and then go to his contemporary class. And that is the result today you saw Akram and his work all over. And that Kathak background is there. And we will see, Kathak take him very long. Because contemporary dance, as a dancer, you can't survive very long. Very quickly you survive in the sense, as a dancer, I mean. You turn yourself into choreographer or teacher or something. But Kathak will take him very long as a performer.
But I don't think I can dance at 75 the way my Guruji does. That takes a very special kind of person to be able to do that.
I wanted to ask you, is there a harmony or is there a dissonance between the dance body of a Kathak dancer, a contemporary dancer, and where you are now, which I guess in some ways is a fusion of the two?
No, I'd like to call it, I prefer to call it confusion, really. Fusion is too easy somehow. I prefer to call it confusion because I think there is a harmony and disharmony, you know. But contemporary dance, the kind of contemporary styles I studied I was very lucky because it was very pedestrian in many respects, you know. And Kathak is far less stylized than Bharatanatyam. So it's more naturalistic in its narrative approach. So somehow it lent itself to contemporary dance, and contemporary dance lent itself to Kathak.
And when you emerged in the Western dance world, how were you received, this confusion between the two, this mélange?
Well, the contemporary dance world, the Western dance world embraced it. The classical Kathak world didn't embrace it. But I think it's also perhaps a fear. And it's a fear of the unknown. Because really great masters, Guruji included, Maharaji, they are very open to any art form, so long as they feel it has quality. So they don't feel threatened because they are so knowledgeable in themselves and they have such strength, they don't feel insecure. But a lot of the mediocre, let's say, Kathak world, that exists in all art forms, but particularly Kathak world, really didn't embrace what I did. And they started calling me a contemporary dancer, not a Kathak dancer anymore, as if I abandoned Kathak. So that was a little bit disheartening.
Were you hurt by that?
I think I was, but Guruji gave me great advice. He said, it's good fuel. You need tension in life. If you don't have tension, you have nothing to fight for. That's the worst thing. You know, if you listen to Guruji's life, all throughout his life, there's been tension, whether it's tension with the Guru, or whether it's tension with his body, or whether it's tension from going from Bharatanatyam to Kathak. you always want to, there has to be this desire to prove yourself. And so in a sense, it kept me going, to train in the morning in Kathak, even if I do contemporary. But I have a belief that when I saw Guruji perform as a child, when I saw other artists, great artists perform on stage, great artists are those where you forget that they're doing a specific form because you're just watching great art. It becomes universal. So you can be a Kathak specialist in the audience, or you could be an absolute non-Kathak specialist. But when an artist transcends the form, then it becomes universal. Something special happens. Like, as I said, Michael Jackson or Charlie Chaplin, everyone will know what it feels to connect with those artists, because the form is just the tool. Really, it's Guruji's way of expressing that tool, because there's multiple ways of expressing that tool, that form. So Guruji has his own way. He's very different to Maharaji. Just way Zakir Bhai is very different. Zakir Hussain is an incredible tabla player, genius. He's very different to his father. Even though he trained with his father, he's very different. And so what's important is that it becomes universal. It has to become universal. At least the attempt is there. But I really struggled with the Kathak dance community. But then my Guruji always found something positive in the negative. And so he taught me to see that, really.
Talking of transcension, one of the things that's really quite unique and incredible in many ways about Kathak is that if you're a Kathak dancer, you learn both the male and the female form of the dance. How do you achieve that? How does a man achieve the movements, the storytelling, the persona of a woman?
Last night you were in the performance and you had seen that it all depends. I will rather say that every dancer, it's not easy to achieve that, one thing, because last night also said it's not only the expression, my facial expression should say, so your entire body should go into that character, and that's not easy. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but that is the ideal thing.
As a boy growing up in the West, was that something that you could embrace, or did you find that challenging?
Well, I have to say my mother was very smart in that, because I was being bullied a lot in school for dancing. So when my mother saw Guruji perform, she thought, this is the one. This is the one who has to teach. Because he was very confident in the masculine approach, but also in the feminine approach. But when I saw my Guruji, I think there's something about age that's very incredible, because when Guruji used to perform when I saw him when I was a child watching my Guruji perform, it was much more masculine driven. And as he grew older, the feminine came much, much more deeply into his body. So I think it's also with experience and time that you can embrace both. It's very beautiful to see Guruji perform last night, because if you watch him yesterday and you watch him 20 years, 25, 30 years back, they're complete different interpretations.
And for you, is that something you've used, this transcension of gender, in the way you choreograph and dance now?
I think I'm beginning to, just now. I think I've just started. We started a little bit with Until the Lions, the piece I made about Amba and Shikandi. But I didn't go yet into playing both feminine or female and masculine, but it's something that I am interested in, yes.
Pratapji, I'd like to ask you about being a dancer, being a performer at 75. You've already talked about how contemporary dancers not necessarily a home for dancers in the latter stages of their careers. What is it about Kathak that allows you to carry on dancing?
Kathak, I will say, I should not say this only Kathak. Kathak, Odissi, Bharatanatyam, all Indian dance. If you, there's so much scope, and if you got that passion, and it's something like that, very strange. There's that people who are all the time in it, they're automatically things keep on coming up, and then practice, regular practice is very important. That one can go very far, and that doesn't only Kathak. It is also Bharatanatyam and Odissi. Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra. Yes, in the age of 70, I have seen him here in London. Very, very, very ordinary looking, not proper hair, and his best disciple performed before him, Sanjukta Panigrahi. Such a beautiful dancer. And then she said, what a beautiful thing she said. She said, you're appreciating me, but I am only spreading the flowers for my guru to come on stage. That's what she said. That her dance, she put like flowers for his guru. And the moment he entered, no makeup, nothing, but just one tika, and he used to pan. And not a great personality looking at. I have seen with my own eyes his expression, his actions made Western people getting the tears out of their eyes. Here in London, I have seen that. And these things I used to see, and those things have inspired me to do this part. So what I'm saying, because Abhinay means expressional aspect is such that at any age you can bring it if you've got within. It should come within, as I yesterday said, that it has to entirely thing. And rightly here Akram said, because Veeras, which is a warrior's temperament, and Karun, pathos, these two are my favorite ras. Not Shangar. What I did last night, Avisarika, that's not my favorite. There are 9 sentiment traditionally. Out of that pathos, I think I'm quite good in that. Dancing Times had written that I did one ghazal, and many times I've done that, and always it happens. My tears come automatically, that is a different thing. But the Dancing Times written, the writer or the critic wrote that he brought tears in audience eyes, including mine, doing that ghazal. That was a famous ghazal of Bahadur Shah, the last emperor of Mughal emperor, and he has written that.
Akram, very briefly, could you explain what the 9 emotions are, and what would be your favourites if there are any?
Well, there's Guruji would be able to explain better. Shringar, which is love. Veer, which is bravery, courage. Adbhut, which is to wonder. Then there's Vivatsya, which is disgust.
Disgusting.
Then there's Veer, which is
bravery.
I said that bravery.
Already.
Hasya, which is laughter, joyful. No.
It could be hasya, uphas, and attahas. So hasya means out of joy you get. Uphas means sarcastically you are laughing at somebody. Attahas are very loudly you laugh. That's hasya, like this 9 sentiment. But recent quite a few years it's going on that Shringar is love. So they say love, only Shringar can be between hero and heroine. But where is the maternal and paternal love? So they say Vatsalya. That means love for your child. So, and Bhakti, they say no, Shant is one part and Bhakti is different. So 9 are traditional from ages, for thousands of ages. But 2 recently have been talking about that those should be separated from Shringar and Bhakti. So Bhakti is one of the rasa. Shanta. Shanta is rasa.
So this is your only contemporary solo performance that you've ever choreographed. It strikes me as strange that that's the case, bearing in mind we so often see Kathak dancers dancing on their own, commanding the stage on their own, telling those stories. Why just Dish?
I think it's a different kind of, it's a complete different discipline. So there is an empathy between the two forms, Kathak and contemporary, that I've felt has always been there. But contemporary, the kind of style I do is it's kind of working against gravity, and it's much more riskier to the body. So as Guruji rightly said, you can do that up to a certain point, contemporary dance. But I'm really at the edge right now at 42. So Dish was something that I wanted to do before I quit doing contemporary solo. And I thought, well, it would be such a challenge to do a full-length piece. People have done it before. But I wanted to do it naive and kind of ambitiously on an epic scale. So also to bear in mind, in defense of the contemporary soloists, with Kathak you have live music. So you have other bodies in space to support you. With contemporary, with Dish, there is nobody. I'm completely alone, so I don't have a moment to breathe. If I leave the stage, the show finishes. So it's very physical in a very different way. I'm hitting my body against the floor because there's traumatic moments when I'm expressing my father's trying to run away from the Pakistani army. There's moments where I'm hanging upside down for quite a while. It's quite explosive in a very different way. Kathak is also explosive, but I was very aware creating a work like this that I can't really sustain it for that long. I mean, I kind of made a joke about bringing back Dish to Alistair Spalding, the artistic director of Sadler's Wells, and I think he took it seriously. So he booked it for 4 shows this year, which actually starts on the 31st of May. But really, in the beginning, I was kind of joking, to bring it back, because I ended it in Portugal. I thought, that's it, I'm not going to do it again. That's enough bruising of my body. But because I joked about it, and anyway, he took it more seriously, I'm having to do it again. But I'm excited about bringing it back. I mean, it's you have to be more intelligent when you get older of the choices you make, of what you can do and what you cannot do. But what's interesting is, if you're a choreographer, then Guruji would agree, I think, if you're a choreographer, you have the ability and the craft to change the material to suit your body in the time that you are in the age that you're in. I cannot do Dish as I did 5 years ago, but I can do it differently. And I think that's the magic of Kathak dancers, because they don't do necessarily everything that they did at 20. They change the material. It becomes much more deeper. It becomes musical. It becomes more expressive, emotional. And one thing to realize, not just with Dish, but with Kathak dance, particularly of what Guruji was saying, is that I think till 40, from beginning of your training till 40, everything that you're learning and you're doing is information. Then after 40, a transition happens. And the information becomes knowledge. And knowledge is information, but it is information that is embodied, that is lived. So it's like learning to speak a language. You learn to speak a language most of your life, but at a certain point, it becomes subconscious. You start dreaming in that language. When it becomes subconscious, that means the language has become embodied.
Can you ever imagine a day that you would take a disciple?
No, I don't think I would. I like to share, but I don't. Guruji comes from a tradition, Maharashtrian. They're warriors, They're very brave and courageous. I would be terrified. I mean, I have 2 children, and I don't teach them, but I'm already terrified of them, of my son and daughter, because no, I don't think I will. I mean, I think this is my personal opinion, that you have to devote your life to a particular form to be able to teach it. And I train every day, but I haven't devoted my life entirely on Kathak the way my Guruji has or Maharaji has. So one thing I like to try and be is close to the truth. Because as artists, we are always creating illusions on stage. And I have very strong characters in my life, both of them women, my mother and my wife. And now my daughter, who's becoming a very strong character. But they're very close to reminding me of the truth. So I try, if I'm being very honest, that I don't think I would, I could maybe give a workshop or a lecture, but I haven't invested 24 hours every day of my life in Kathak to be able to teach. I think the mistake is that a lot of teachers do around the world is they learn Kathak and they haven't really invested a lot of deep time. And they start teaching. And then those students start teaching without investing. And for me, personally, I find that really dangerous and also unfair to the student.
Is it possible to define the bond, the relationship that you both have? Are there enough words to express what it is?
I think it's many things in this relationship. It's very difficult to define it as with one word. You know, as Guruji explained, there are many forms of love, and all those different forms of love are existing in this relationship. You know, the love for a partner, for example, is also in this work. It is in this relationship because the relationship teaches you about the love for your art form. That becomes your partner. The love for a child, the guru loving his child. The love you have for your parents, the student loving his parents or her parents. So it's so many things in one. But I would say the biggest role that I feel of a guru is a life coach or a life guide. And that for me has always stayed with me, the teachings of my guru.
Yes, I mean, I think almost everything he explained. At times when he's also earned the name, I remember for example, many times it happened when he was upcoming. I remember one incident, and he was caught in a situation where he was getting a bit nervous on that situation, where it was a competition with another dancer. And he, in the midnight, 2 o'clock, he got up and he told his mother, take me to Guruji or let me talk to him. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him. So she said, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and in the morning I'll be you talk. And he talked to me and told me his difficulties, and I told him certain things. That just think of what you're going to do. Don't think that you're going to impress, you're going to defeat that. It was a kind of competition. So have these things, certain things I told, which I don't want to repeat all in detail, but I think that helped him. And then Tabla player had told me, the one who had played in that performance, that on stage, before going to stage, again he was getting slightly nervous, and I reminded him that think of your guru. He's so much older to you, but when he goes on stage, he goes like a lion, and think of him. So I was very touched when I heard that. And even now, sometime when he feels, he calls me maybe 12:30, 11 o'clock in the night, and we'll talk about hour and a half. That's minimum. They're still going on.
About life. Generally about life or work.
It will never end, will it?
No, but I was going to say that Guruji also has something very English about him, before I forget. The English are incredible at being able to look at oneself and laugh at themselves. And so Guruji has this great sense of humor, and that's very important in a relationship. Also, apart from being a sacred guide, he has a great sense of humor. So a lot of the times he would balance that with something serious. So he would break it down because he likes to laugh a lot, and so he would tell stories that would really rip us apart in terms of laughing our heads off. So that's also equally important. So that's the English part about him, that he doesn't take himself always too seriously.
So there was always self-deprecation, humility?
Yes, I think that's a sign of humility. I think that's really, really an instrumental part. He said to me always, if your career changes or your fortunes change, don't change your personality. Remember where you came from, and remember everyone who is still there, and who will also come up. And I think that's a lesson that's really shared by two people, my Guruji, in my life anyway, and my mother.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.